Bonjour tout le monde, welcome to French class. Today we are going to learn how to use the pronominal verbs in the passé composé. So remember, a pronominal verb is a verb that conjugates with a pronoun. So for example here, se réveiller in the infinitive, it means to wake up. So we already learned how to use those verbs in the present tense. For example, when you talk about your daily routine. Here, for example, je me réveille tous les jours à 8 heures. Every day, I wake up at 8 a.m. But of course, we can also use those verbs in the passé composé. So now, yesterday. Hier, je me suis réveillé à 9 heures. Yesterday, I woke up at 9 a.m. So we are using here the passé composé, and you notice that with the pronominal verbs, we are going to use the auxiliary être. So remember, that we only have a handful of verbs that are going to take the auxiliary être when used in passé composé. Remember la maison d'être and also Dr. and Mrs. Van der Trump. All those verbs here are going to use être as a helping verb, as the auxiliary of those verbs when they are conjugated in the passé composé. As you notice here as well, it is the same with the pronominal verbs. The pronominal verbs are also going to use être when conjugated in the passé composé. Se lever, se laver, se réveiller. So let's see here now the conjugation of those verbs. For example, the verb se coucher, which means to go to bed. So it is important though to remember that when you use être in the passé composé, usually you are going to agree the past participle with the subject. So here, je, it's me talking, Nathalie, it's feminine, so we should add a E at the end because je is feminine if it's Nathalie talking. But if it's Mark or Peter that is je, that is talking, then we would not agree the past participle, it would not change. So remember, to conjugate a pronominal verb, you will use a helping verb, an auxiliary, and the past participle. Here we have verb ending in er, we drop this and we replace by a. So, je me suis couché. Also remember that the pronoun must agree with the subject. Je me suis couché. Tu t'es couché. Here too, we don't know if tu is masculine or feminine. If it's feminine, then we will add a e because we are using the auxiliary être. We never agree the past participle we avoir in regular sentences. There are exceptions, of course. We'll see that later. But remember that you usually agree the past participle with the subject when you use être. But of course, in the next slide, we'll see a few exceptions. So, il is masculine, so doesn't change. Il s'est couché. Remember, T like this, it's te and it drops se because here we have a voyelle, right? Elle s'est couchée. Alors, here, elle s'est couchée, something. Here we know that elle is feminine, so we need that I at the end, feminine mark. Nous sommes couchés. So here's the subject. Here is the pronoun. Nous sommes couchés. And nous is plural, but it can be masculine or feminine. We don't know if it's a group of men, a group of women, a group of mixed of men and women. Vous êtes couché. You have the subject. You have the pronoun here. Vous vous êtes couché. Here, vous can be formal. Et can be plural, can be feminine or masculine. So it all depends on context. Ils se sont couchés. We know it's a masculine plural. Ils se sont couchés. Elles se sont couchées. We know it's feminine plural. So Of course, there are exceptions here. So, important, there is no agreement of the past participle when a direct object follows, the verb. So, for example, as we just saw, elle s'est lavée. The subject is feminine, so we're using être, so laver should be a, and that's correct. Elle s'est lavée, it means she washed herself. She's doing the action on herself. However, in the second sentence, now we have here a direct object, right? The sentence means she washed her hands. So her hands are behind the verb. In that case, we will not agree the past participle with the subject. I know this is very tricky, so try to remember, but it's not easy to remember this type of construction here. So another example, elle s'est coupée. She cut herself. Here, there is nothing, there is no direct object behind the verb, so we have a subject feminine. We're using être, so we should agree the past participle with the subject, and the subject is feminine. Elle s'est coupée. However, here, elle s'est coupé le doigt. She cut her finger, which is different here. She cut herself. She cut her finger. So, elle s'est coupé. There is no agreement because we have a direct object here, same as in this sentence. You will also notice that in English, you say, for this sentence, elle s'est coupé le doigt. She cut her finger. In French, with the body parts, we are going to use a definite article because we already used the reflexive pronoun, so we know that the person is doing the action on herself. We don't need a possessive adjective to reinforce it. It would be redundant. So we are using a definite article with a body part because we know that this body part belong to the same person because she's doing the action on herself already, on her finger, on her hands. We know it's not the hands of somebody else, nor the finger of somebody else. So this is why in French we are going to use le, la, les, a definite article in front of the body parts. So for the negation now, we're going to have many different little words, so it can also get a bit tricky here. So in the question, est-ce qu'elle s'est maquillée ce matin? Did she put a makeup on this morning? So you can say oui, elle s'est maquillée. Yes, she put makeup on. So you will use se maquiller, a pronominal verb, and you're going to put it in the passé composé. Elle s'est maquillée. Elle is feminine. You're going to add a e here. Now, if you say non, elle ne s'est pas maquillée. No, she didn't put a makeup on. So everything will be the same here. Elle, you are going to use être, you are going to use the agreement. However, the negation now is going to surround the auxiliary. Just like in the regular passé composé with regular verbs, or verbs that are non-pronominals, remember the negation surround the auxiliary. Also remember in pronominal verb, the pronoun and the auxiliary form a block here, and the verb form a block. So in the passé composé, add the pronoun in front of the auxiliary and the negation around the auxiliary, just like in all verbs in passé composé. Est-ce que tu t'es couché tard hier soir? Did you go to bed late last night? Oui, je me suis couché tard. So we don't know if it's je féminin or masculine here. So it's gonna depend on context. Oui, je me suis couché tard. Non, je ne me suis pas couché tard. So you have the auxiliary, the past participle. The negation surround the auxiliary that forms a block with the pronoun. Voilà, merci beaucoup. I hope it helped. I will see you in the next video. Au revoir, à bientôt.